This is the Frankie Bay kit by Lori Sullivan Roy, and this was painted by my sister, Sunflower Baby Angels, or Miss Sunflower, and she had some repairs that needed to be done. So I'm going to be doing some of the repairs on this kit. And also I had agreed that I would do the rooting. At first we were going to do black hair. Now we're going to do dark carrot top. And I'm noticing that both dark carrot tops aren't quite the same tone. So I'm going to use the darkest around the edges and maybe at the crown, and the lighter, more in the middle. Now, this Frankie Bay is a peaky eye baby, which means that the eyes can be opened and little eyes can be added to them, or you can keep the eyes sealed. So there's already a hollow in there. Now, she opened the eyes, but then they kind of sealed back. So I'm going to reopen them, and I'm going to put some eyes in that are more appropriate, because you can't use big eyes in a tiny baby. And so I knew I had some smaller eyes. So we're going to see what the little eyes look like. Oh yeah, and she had a long bath, so it does look like she was crying when I was cutting open her eyes, but she was crying happy tears. I have a lot of eyes, but I think that not all of those little containers are filled, but I still got a lot of eyes. So I'm just gonna cut forward to the eyes that I located that I liked with the right size. So the first thing I noticed is that they were the right size. I think these are 18 inches, and then they were a great color. They're hazel, or they could be charcoal, and they're oval, they're glass. They were perfect. So they were the right size, the right color, and now we just got to see if they look right in the baby's eyes. Because you know how those babies, when they first born, they side eye you? Like, I know they can't really see you, but it looked like they're giving you the side eye. So that's what we're going to try to go for. I actually think that the eyes look great in the baby, but I'm not going to set them because, it's going to be totally up to my sister to make that decision. All right, so the next step is we're going to start doing the repair work. Now, the repair is some of the paint has come off, which means that some of the silicone has come off. And it was during the matting process. The mat was too thick, and my sister tried to peel that mat off, and it peeled off a little bits of the skin. And I told her, I can fix that. But I actually made that spot bigger because I had to scrub off all of the loose silicone paint. So the first step is we need Psycho B, and that is Psycho Paint B, which is 1/2 of the silicone that we use to paint with. And we're going to tint it. So we're going to give it some color. It is much easier to do this process, this step, on a baby that has not already been colored, that has not been painted. Especially if it's one that's a brown tone. When it's a brown tone, it's going to be a lot harder to do, and it means that I'm going to have to repaint the baby. Because you're never going to really match that color, but we got some workarounds. So that tint that you saw, that is the color that my sister used to paint the baby. I just put it in this little condiment container because opening that big bottle is just really hard. And so we're only going to be adding the color to part B. I'm going to speed it up. I'm trying to do a color match right now. when I add the A, eventually I'll be adding the second part of the cycle paint. This is going to prevent it from curing. That's why I made a big batch, and then I'm, adding more tint to get a better tone, and then I'll be adding A to it to actually do the application. And at that point, once I add the A, that's when it starts to cure. You're going to need alcohol. You're going to need a lot of alcohol, and I keep my alcohol in a spray bottle because we're going to use it to smooth. At this time, I'm not going to be using any solvent. I want this to cure quick. So once you add solvent, it makes it thinner. It allows you some work time, but I'm going to be trying to work really fast. And part of that is also to use a heat gun, because once you heat up the silicone, it's going to cure very quickly. So I'm going to be taking a little bit out what I think that I'm going to need to paint or start the repair for part 1 of this repair. So this is going to take a couple of parts to get it all built up the way I want it. And then I'm going to add the cycle paint A to it. So I know it says paint, but it's just clear silicone part 1 and part 2, or part A and part B. And now I'm going to mix them. And that's why I added a little bit more tint, because I knew it was going to kind of dilute. So once I start spraying the alcohol, I'm using it basically to smooth around the edges. So I'm not trying to really touch the inside unless the inside really needs a lot of smoothing. So let's say that it's like a big drip and I need to smooth that out, because it's going to be very smooth already. So I just want to make sure that that transition onto the rest of the silicone is very smooth. Now that the silicone is hot, the body is hot, when I add this next application of silicone, it wants to cure super fast. And I got a teeny little lump there, which I'm pretty sure I can work out. But yeah, now I can basically just spray the alcohol on there and then just smooth it out. And as long as my fingers are not tacky, it'll just be super smooth. And now I'm just checking to make sure that the silicone paint hasn't dripped, because I'm using, big amounts and it can drip. And now it's time to work on that underarm crease, and that really isn't a big rip or anything like that. It's just where some of the paint was missing, and then I just kind of scrubbed. So this time I tried to heat up the body first, because I really like how quickly it applies, and you can see that it works really good with the silicone already heated up. And again, just smoothing around the edges to make sure that it's not thick or anything like that. And I found that 2 applications at the same time works well. You don't want to do more than 2 probably, because it's really not cured yet. So underneath it's still wet. So just give it time to actually do a proper cure before you keep layering more and more and more and more. Believe me, you'll have a totally ruined kit, a totally ruined repair if you do that. Okay, now it's time to work on the back of the knee. And the back of the knee is so notorious for getting stuck together. And once again, this is not how I received the kit. The repair works, these were just little small spots, but I felt like I knew I could repair it. And so I kind of rubbed off any extra silicone around where I wanted to repair. So keep in mind, there's no gouges in the silicone. It's the silicone itself, the body is very smooth. It's just the paint that needs to be smoothed out.
Tell me what you see in me. Gotta be something different. You must be made for me. Patience is nothing. In and out, in and out, in and out. Arguing, trifling, difficult. Let more. I don't know why you love me. Yeah. You got it bad for me, babe. I'm so glad that I can have this, babe. Nobody else true.
As you can see, it really helped to heat up the body first, because once I added the paint on, it started to cure. And then I was able to go in and spray the alcohol to smooth things out.
I don't wanna slap me up, babe. Don't wanna sit.
And this is where there's a big drip, but I was able to catch it while it was still warm and smooth it out. So once I do this small portion, I'm going to let the kit set. I want it to cure as much as possible below the surface of the paint. It has been about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I added more alcohol, and I get this big one from Amazon, which is 99% isopropyl alcohol. What I noticed is that you see how it wrinkles like that? That's how you know that the kit is not completely cured. You see this, I haven't been doing anything and it's not buckling, but that does. That doesn't mean that I can't paint over it. It just means that you always have to give some dry time to your babies. You can't just like paint them and then ship them home. They're not ready. They're not cured yet. They're not completely cured. So, and you see how that, I don't know if you noticed that part, how that wrinkles like that. That only happens when this paint hasn't cured completely. And that is why you don't want to add too many applications at once. You want to give it time to cure and to set. So what we're going to do now is we're going to concentrate only on the lightest areas. The reason being is that the more paint that we add around the edges, the darker it's going to get. And that is about as dark as I really want to go because, like I said, this process requires me to have to repaint this baby. Unfortunately, because it's a brown skin baby, I have to, add color. What type of color you add is up to you. In other words, like let's say you want it to look like an open wound. I would not recommend that. You can add pinks and stuff like that, but I'm not going to be doing that. All right, so I am going to be concentrating on just the lightest portions right here and trying not to get around the edges so that this builds up more paint, because right now it's smooth to the touch. But I'm going to have to paint it anyway. When I paint it, I'm going to be adding more layers to this lighter part. Now, I got this out of the refrigerator. You don't have to refrigerate it because it's just with Psycho Paint B with a little bit of color. But I'm just storing it in the refrigerator. Now, if you did mix A and B together, you can store it in the refrigerator and it would prevent it from curing as quickly. Now I'm gonna add equal parts A, and basically we are going to do a repeat of what we did before. I just want to make sure that I'm using equal parts. I am able to eyeball. If you don't feel comfortable eyeballing it, could measure. And then we got to work fast because I'm not going to be adding anything, any solvent. If you feel like you can't do it as quickly, like let's say you're watching this video because you want to do a repair, you can always don't heat it up, you know. But I'm going to heat up the baby first, so. I do have a smaller brush. I think I'm gonna grab a smaller brush. And the cloth that I'm using, this is just one of those quick drying rags. I'm trying to be very carefully painting in the lines. And we just have a little one here.
And it was you, the one that would be breaking my heart when you decided to walk away. When you decided to walk away.
I see this transition needs to be a little bit better. Notice that I always move my paint away because I don't want this to get set, so I keep it away from the heat. Okay. And when I say that transition, I just mean that I can feel a lump. It's not smooth. I'm not talking about the color transition, because at this point I'm not worried about the color transition as much. I just don't want anybody to feel under the arms and feel anything that feels lumpy. Perfect. And it's already setting. And I think that looks pretty good. We're just gonna leave it stretched like that. Okay, also I noticed that this right here has a bit of a transition, but it's so small, I'm not gonna worry about it. Let's do, while that is setting, I'm gonna do this. And I can see where it's wrinkling right there. So I wanna make sure that is what you want to avoid by adding too much paint, that ripple right there. Okay, let's help? Yeah, that helps a little bit. Once again, I'm going to try to work quickly, but stay within the boundaries of the light color and not move too much into the dark color. That's good. I'm not going to do too much more with that. This baby has a armatures, which makes it easy for me to put it into a position that I need it to be in. Feels very smooth. Notice that I didn't add any heat to the body on this cheek because I want some time to actually get the paint on before it starts to set. Okay, now we're back again, and this time we're going to be working on Frankie's neck on the front. So it's been maybe about 2 hours, maybe not quite that long, since we did the back. And we are now going to work on this neck area. Make sure that was my water bottle. Yeah, this is my alcohol. All right, I'm just gonna make sure that it's all nice and cleaned first. This time I put the paint in the refrigerator because I had enough left over just for the neck. And I'm going to be adding a couple of drops of solvent. So you can use whatever kind that you prefer. I probably am using Bob Ross odorless. That looks like caramel, doesn't it? So I just used enough so that it loosened it up a little bit. We're going to warm up the neck once again. And once again, I'm going to paint in the lines. So what that means is I'm just going to paint the pale part and try not to get any paint on the browner parts. Do you see how I'm pulling the head back? You don't want to do that, because if it's curing, then it cures with the neck stretched, so that when you put it back into position, it kind of has those little stretch marks or pull marks. So I'll add one more coat of paint, and I'm going to kind of cover up where it pulled and stretched a little bit, and then it turned out really nice. It was very smooth. That's pretty good. Keep in mind, we're going to be doing creasing. We're going to be adding more color to it. Red, models. So even though this may look a little uneven, I think this one application is going to do it. Okay, it has been several hours. I am pretty confident that Frankie Bay is pretty cured. So I'm going to, so that I can actually see what everything looks like, I'm going to take some matting powder. This is silicone matting powder. And I am going to knock off some of this shine. I am doing something called dry matting. And after I dry mat, I can wash her, It's just going to take that shine off, and it'll give me an idea of what more I have to do. So I do see this little streak of white there that I would like to take care of. But beyond that, I'm happy with the neck, and I like the way it looks and feels. Now let's look at the back. Okay. Let's take a look. Wow, this looks really good right here. And don't mind me that I am bending limbs back far. Because I just want to be able to really get a good look at it. So I think that when I paint this kit right here, I think that this will remedy a lot of that. This I can already tell is going to need another application, but let's take a closer look. Just rub the silicone in. Actually, her whole back is a little sticky. Not really sticky, but tacky. So we're just going to get all of that so that we get a very nice soft, I feel this ridge here. So we're going to take care of that. And that bump is still there, but you can't see it as much. So I think with the next application, I'll be able to get some better smoothness on here. Oh, back of her hand. Just knock that the shine off. It just makes it so soft. Okay, now to the back of the leg. This is the back of the leg. This is the back of the knee that we were working on. And just rub it in. And before I do the next layers, I will put her in the sink and just rinse her off. It's a little rough. I think it's pretty good though. It looks so much better. And that was just 2 rounds of I don't even know what you call this. 2 rounds of repairs. All right, guys. So, I see this needs, it feels good, but when I paint it, it needs to be evened out. The color needs to be evened out. And then I see that we need to add another application of color here. And then in reference to her underarm, I think I'm going to call that good. Hi everyone, I'm back now. It has been an entire day, and that's good because I really wanted the layers of silicone to set. It doesn't have to completely cure. Now off camera, I did a little bit, one more layer of work, so I want to show you what I have done. Frankie Bay has received a full, I guess a full layer, and it went from here to here, and I just spooned it on with or applied it, I should say, with one of these. And I did the same for the back of his leg, and it is very smooth. It looks very good, but I still think, I don't know, what do you guys think? I could probably still get the camera a little closer, get rid of some of that lightness. I could do that, but I believe that when I apply the next layer of paint, it's really going to help with that. And then plus I'm going to, like I said, there's going to be a little bit of extra stuff, but I'm going to be adding some little pink to the butt, so that should help. Now I did find a spot on the front that I didn't like, so since I did that part off camera, I'm going to do this part on camera. And Frankie does not mind if we stretch their leg out a little bit. So I am finding that when I touch this, I can feel this roughness. So I'll show you how I did it. I didn't heat up the limb. I just added it on. It's been a hot day here in Cincinnati, and this is June, so it's really, we're having a heat wave. So we're going to go ahead and look. This is that B that I had mixed up days ago, and it never cures. So you definitely always need part A and part B for the cure. So here is the part A. Equal parts. And no solvent in this. I don't want it to thin out, I want a thick application. And then we'll just mix it. Mix, 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 mix. And here's my alcohol so that I can actually feel it. The alcohol isn't like a solvent, so it doesn't thin out, but I'm still pretty careful. And this is the same leg that we did the work on, but this part just feels a little, just a little bit not as smooth as it can be. Okay. And that alcohol just kind of makes sure that we get rid of what they call the silicone boogers, which is little silicone tags or balls. And then just glide it on like that. Ooh. I saw a fly by. And a little piece of lint here. I'm gonna pick off. I try not to get it to go beyond where I needed to fix the texture. So you can use the popsicle stick or stirrer or whatever you're using to just kind of take off anything extra. Okay, so this part is already smooth. This part is already smooth. This part, it's right in there. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. I like my fingertip to be a little wet too. And I'm just feeling, I don't like the way that feels. I'm going to get that again. I doubt if Mom is going to be really touching the back of his knee, but I know it's there, so. All right. So as I was saying, alcohol is not a solvent, meaning that it's not used to thin out the paint before you paint, and it dries very fast. So I think that this is going to feel good, look good. Let me just make sure that transition looks good. Yeah, all of that feels good and looks good. So we'll let that dry and I'll be back in a little bit. It's been a little bit of time and I am back. And look at that. That is so smooth now. I like the way it feels. I like the way it looks. Keep in mind that when it is time for us to do the painting application, so everything gets finished off with another layer of paint to even everything out, I'm going to be stippling it with this. And this helps to add a little texture. So it's not going to be smooth and shiny like that. All right, let's look at the back because I've been trying to decide or determine whether or not I want to add a little bit more to his butt. I think everything looks good. Everything looks the way I would, you know, I feel comfortable with. But I see that it's light here and light here. It's a little bit light here, but I don't worry about that. But this and this, I think that we can do it one more time. So, once again, we're adding part B, just a little bit. Keep in mind, we're going to be adding equal parts A, so that little bit will become a lot. So here's part A. A lot more will be twice as much. And that looks about right. And once again, we need a very thick application. I'm not going to heat up the limb because my B feels very thick. And I think it's mixed pretty well. This time, I think we're going to use the paintbrush. And once again, we're going to paint between the lines. In other words, we're just going to paint the palest part. Oh, that fly then came back. Let's get a little bit closer. Now, one thing I will say is that when you are painting in during a heat wave, it definitely matters. My house is not exactly what I would call cool. I mean, at some points, even though I have, you know, air, there was points when it was up to 80 in my house. So during this painting process. So I'm going to have to say that that could have impacted how fast things cure. Definitely keep that in mind when you are doing your summer painting, that your home could impact. And here's some lightness right here. It could impact how quickly things cure. And what I'm really talking about is your work time. How much time you have to work. For me, I feel like I have about 6 minutes. After about 6 minutes, this is going to be way too sticky to work with. Now, despite how it may look, in other words, blotchy, it's smooth to the touch. Now just use the alcohol to keep it slick. So yeah, it's smooth to the touch, and I think that was a good call for me to go ahead and add that extra bit of silicone. If it doesn't, for some reason, yeah, I see a piece of hair right here. Now I gotta add some more paint. Okay. Y'all see how that texture happened? That's what's gonna happen when we actually start doing that. Okay. Should I start using? Let's go ahead and do this again. You actually don't want to layer new paint over paint that's still wet. But I feel like we're going to call this, not like I'm putting a second layer on there. We're going to call this like I'm doing the first layer. There we go. Smoothing it out. All right. So we're going to go ahead and let this set the way we have let that set. And then after that, I believe it's going to be about time to paint, finally. Before we paint, I decided that I wanted to do another dry mat, and that way I can get a better visual of what the repairs look like. I did see a drip on the butt from where I added that extra layer of paint, but I went in and fixed that. So I went in and just dry matted everything so I can get a better look. And the next step is to wash. So we are going to give Frankie Bay, I don't know why I keep calling her he, but she's a little girl. We're going to give Frankie Bay a nice hot bubble bath in Dawn dishwashing liquid. Then I'm going to use Novox to rub. It's a solvent that I'm going to rub into the silicone, and that's going to help the paint to adhere. And yeah, that's basically it. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but I think I'm anxious to start painting now. So I did actually use the Novox to help clean off some of the matting, the dry matting powder. And you have to be careful. I mean, it can dissolve it, but it also can take off some of the paint. So I did that, but luckily it was just a teeny dot, and I'll be repainting very shortly. Finally, it's time to paint. Now, I have done a lot of videos on how I paint, and so I'm just gonna show you, run through it really quick, fast forward really quick on it. What I will tell you is that I am using the same color that my sister used, and I'm not mixing any other colors with it. I'm not painting in the same style that I would normally paint because I'm a modeler. So for newborn, I would be modeling blues and, different colors. And she does like a plain, simple paint with blushing, which is beautiful. So I'm just going to do her exact technique, other than the fact that I will tell you it will probably be modeled anyway because we have so many different textures. But anyway, sit back, enjoy. And now we are at the tail end of the process. So that starts with adding a protective coat of silicone. And some people tint that silicone. I'm just using Cyclopaint A and Cyclopaint B. And then I am adding my OSS. I think I'd said earlier it was Bob Ross odorless, but it's OSS. So that's the solvent. And I'm adding it liberally. So I want like a very wet. I want a very wet concoction, not like honey or caramel. And then also I'm going to be putting on my gloves, and I am going to be spreading this on with my hands. Before I did this process, I did give Frankie Bay another bath. Oh my God, this baby has had so many baths. But I wanted to make sure that there was no silicone balls, that there wasn't any lint stuck to, because you know, it is kind of tacky. The paint is very sticky. So I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any lint or any stray hairs, because you know, there's been a lot of hairs floating around this kit. So sit back and enjoy, and I will get back with you when it's time to do the powder.
Got tired of your shit, you almost your mind. Long stay, call your name. You'll continue to try to play these games. Leave your family in the cold rain. And I don't.
If you're familiar with my channel, you know that when I do a major matting powder, which means a larger doll, then I do this outside, because matting powder is so fine and it just floats in the air. It doesn't just like land, you know, it floats there for a while, and it just covers everything, including your lungs. So I like to have it outside, and today it's after 7 p.m. And so usually when I'm outside, it's golden hour and I get some great light, but it's kind of dark out. Well, it was getting dark, and I had this long thing I was talking about, but my neighbor's dog evidently heard me talking and then was like pitiful crying, like, I want attention. Okay, so the purpose of this matting is to rub into the silicone. So it's going to get rid of that extra shine. When you do a dry matting, you're going to kind of end up with a soft glow, in my opinion, and that's been my case. So when you do like a wet application of matting powder, which means that after I had added that last Cycle A and Cycle B, if I had stopped at that point and went up right outside and started matting, then I would have a very well, I would not have that glow. It would just be very dry looking. So and that's really it's not a bad look, but you do have the issue of having matting powder stuck in places. So, and it takes 2 steps to do it, where I did this in 1 step. So anyway, we'll rub it in there, and then after this process, he gets another bath, or she gets another bath. I'm working on Frankie Bay First Cry, who is a boy, so that's why I keep, when I look at this cute little face, I always want to call her he. All right, so we're going to flip her around, and we're going to repeat the process, and then she gets a bath off camera. She is now rooted and completed. All of her repairs have been done. Her paint has been touched up to kind of try to conceal or alleviate that matting powder that was stuck on there. And I'm going to do a full close-up of her, but I did add some blushing on her hands, her fingertips. I didn't touch up her nails because my sister already did that. But once I added more paint, I did add some newborn red modeling, or pink, I shouldn't say red, pink modeling. Here she is with her eyes in. She does have very sparsely rooted eyelash. Look at look at that look. I know, baby girl, you just came out the uterus. So this baby is sculpted to look like a baby that is freshly newborn. And I'm talking about within an hour of being born. That is what Lori Sullivan Roy said, that she wanted to go for a baby that looked freshly out of the womb. So we're gonna get her dressed, but before we do, let's get her turned over so we can actually see the part that I was asked to do, which was the repairs on her body parts. So we had this repair that we did on the underarm. I like it. We have this repair on the butt, on this side of the butt cheek. So my light is kind of goofy. Now, one thing I will say is when I was matting her, I left a little sticky part right here, and I will have to go in and remat, but I'm not going to because I'm tired. I'm frankly not going to do it. I think it looks fine. Looks like a little chapped skin. Here's the leg portion where she was rematted. And I would say that this is from the way it looked before, probably a 7 out of 10. The skin does kind of buckle a little bit as compared to this side, but I still like it. I still think it looks very authentic for a newborn baby. I have an overhead light, and so every time I hit it with my head, it moves. All right, let's get little Frankie Bae dressed, and then I am going to be shipping her back home to her mama, which is my sister. I don't know if my sister is going to sell her or what, but yeah, my part is done.
I wanna all night, say it. I wanna all night. I wanna all night, say it. I wanna all night. Hello, stranger. It's been a minute since we last kicked it. And by the way, just got in town, and I won't let cumulus clouds all in the sky ruin my vibe. Usually I don't do this often, but since recruiting isn't an option due to unusual rain and thunder, baby I wonder, would you just put your sweats on for me? Yeah. I got the plug, I made the call for me. I'm talking late night for ya. Let me lay a great time on ya. Don't hesitate, no, don't you? Just say you will. Come through and chill. Just say you will. Come through and chill. I wanna all night, say it. I wanna all night. I wanna all night, say it. I wanna all night. Hello, stranger. Babe's been waiting to Just as I recall that ass is still amazing. Playing, baby, I'm saying, baby, you love it, shit, you know I'm crazy. So go ahead and put a drink up. I'm so glad we got to link up. Yeah, it's taking that off of me. Yeah. I got the plug, I made the call for me. I'm talking late night for ya. Let me lay a great time on ya. Don't make me wait, no, don't you? Just say you will.